All right, let's talk about Alphabet, Google's parent company. On the surface, this company looks completely invincible, right? It's like a corporate fortress with products that pretty much run our daily lives. But if you look just a little bit closer, something feels off. The math just doesn't add up. And today, we're going to figure out exactly why.
And that's really the key here. A giant like Alphabet doesn't just collapse one day. That's not how it works. It's more of a slow fade. The warning signs, they're almost always subtle. Little contradictions, weird ripples under the surface that show up way before any real crisis hits. They're the quiet signals that a company's entire trajectory is starting to change.
And look, let's be clear. The official story is incredibly powerful. Alphabet has a dominant spot on the market, a balance sheet that's built like a fortress, a just massive pile of cash, and products we feel like we can't live without. This is the Alphabet that everybody knows, the one Wall Street absolutely loves. It seems totally unshakable.
Which brings us right to the heart of it all. If everything looks so perfect on paper, why does the whole story feel like it's starting to unravel? Why is there this growing disconnect between the company's incredible power and its, frankly, faltering momentum?
Okay, to answer that, let's start with Section 1, cracks in the foundation. We're going to look at the symptoms you can actually see on the outside, the visible strain on Alphabet's most important products.
Let's start with the crown jewel itself, Google Search. It seems like it's quietly shifting into what you might call defensive search. Now, what's so interesting here is what that shift really means. Instead of innovating and leading from the front, the product is now just protecting its territory. The results feel more cluttered, growth is slowing down, and maybe most importantly, it's losing the attention of younger people who are just as likely to search for answers on TikTok and Reddit now. And then, then there's AI. The great paradox. Artificial intelligence should have been Alphabet's destiny, their crowning achievement. They basically invented the modern version of this stuff. But somehow, after a decade-long head start, they just let the future they created slip right through their fingers. And this slide just lays it out so perfectly. On one side, you've got the resources, the absolute best data, the best models, the top researchers, the best infrastructure. They have every single advantage you can imagine. But then you look at the other side, at the results. Products that feel reactive, not proactive, they've lost their leadership position in the industry, and there's no single must-have AI product that has captured the world's imagination. This huge gap between resources and results, that's the real warning sign.
And you know what? Even the mighty YouTube isn't safe from this. Yeah, Shorts kind of stopped the bleeding from TikTok for a bit, but it didn't fix a much deeper problem. YouTube is starting to feel less like the center of internet culture and more like, well, basic internet infrastructure, a utility. And for a platform that literally runs on attention, becoming a utility is a really dangerous, quiet threat. So let's move on to our second section. We're going deeper now. We're moving past the external products and looking at the internal culture that makes them. This is where we find what you could call the slow, quiet rot.
You see, the problems we're seeing with search and with AI, they aren't just product problems. They're symptoms. They're symptoms of something much, much deeper. Because when a giant company starts to stagnate, the root cause is almost always its culture. So how does a great idea die? Well, it often starts with a spark, something bold and full of potential. But then it gets tangled up in just layers and layers of approvals, endless meetings, until it finally lands in front of a committee. And the result? The innovation isn't exactly killed, no. It's just tamed. It's smoothed out into something slow, safe, and totally predictable.
So what happens in an environment like that? Well, your best people leave. And when they do, the reasons they give are always the same. Too much bureaucracy, not enough urgency. Too many managers, and way too much caution. The very people a company like Alphabet needs to actually innovate are finding the culture just too slow, too safe, and too predictable to stick around.
This quote from the source material is harsh, but wow, it perfectly captures this growing feeling. Alphabet's huge structure, with all its different divisions from Waymo to Fitbit, it used to be seen as a strength, but now it feels more like a big, complicated filing cabinet, just a collection of assets that doesn't really have a single focused mission.
So all of this is pushing Alphabet towards a major fork in the road. And in this next section, we're going to lay out the two very different futures ahead of them and the one very clear choice the company has to make.
The first path is the easy one. It's the path of doing nothing.
In this future, Alphabet stays super profitable, but it becomes stagnant. Search slowly gets weaker, its leadership in AI keeps slipping away, and the company gradually turns into the next great legacy tech giant. Massive, respected, and ultimately totally irrelevant to where the future is heading. Think IBM.
But then there's another path, a complete reinvention. This is the future where AI becomes the real operating system of the entire company, where search gets radically changed, not just tweaked, and where all those ambitious moonshot projects finally become real, thriving businesses. This is the path where Alphabet finally becomes the company it always promised it could be.
And that, right there, leads to the ultimate question. This isn't about whether they can do it. Alphabet is smart enough, and it is definitely rich enough. The real question is about will. Does this massive, successful, and very comfortable company still have the internal courage to make the hard choices that reinvention requires?
So, what should we be looking for? In our final section, we're going to boil all of this down into a really clear, actionable guide. These are the critical signals that are going to tell us which of those two futures Alphabet is actually choosing. Forget the earnings reports for a minute. Here are the 3 things that actually matter. Number 1, the pace of AI productization. Are they shipping real products or just showing off cool demos? 2, cultural urgency. Are decisions actually speeding up? Is the bureaucracy getting smaller? And 3, search reinvention. Are they making big, bold, radical changes to their most important product? Because it has to evolve, or it will eventually die.
And that really leaves us with this one final thought. Alphabet's problem isn't in the numbers on its balance sheet. The problem is that the entire formula that made it a giant in the first place just doesn't work anymore. It can't just tweak the inputs. It has to fundamentally rewrite its own equation for the future before someone else comes along and does it for them.